He's Metz. He's Tass. It's the Metzger Tassoul Show. It's the Metzger
Perry Show.
No Tass today, guys.
You're going to want to, you got to share.
I got to share.
Sharing is sharing. Let's go.
Share.
You're not going to want to miss this episode. We fired Shane Tassoul. And we're going to fill you in on all the details at the 20-minute mark.
But in the meantime, you could comment below what your favorite memory of Shane Tassoul was.
Maybe he's watching. Maybe, Shane, do you want to share one of your favorite moments of the 1,123 episodes we've done?
You've been going since what, 2016?
Probably, I think so. 17, maybe 16, 17.
Crazy.
Anyway, how's everybody? We're going to talk. This is going to be a fun topic, right?
Is there a right way to run a martial arts studio?
What do you think? Anybody have any comments? Is there a right way to run a martial arts school, studio, dojo, gym, club? Excuse me.
I think he says no. Hey, Miss Angelari, good to see you. Let us know where you're watching from, too, or that you're watching. All of our 2 people that are watching today. Share real quick.
It always starts off slow, Perry. Then people scroll as they're sitting in their office wondering what to do and if they should call leads or watch the Metzger Tassoul Show.
Well, that's an obvious answer.
How are we doing? Are you almost done programming the
fake viewers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put it in because it just looks better when people see because they check. So just keep adding viewers.
Sure.
All right. Thanks. Anyway, so I will say that we had a phenomenal visit from Carlos Machado yesterday. For any of you jiu-jitsu practitioners, Carlos Machado from the famous Machado family.
Great guy.
Super guy. Flew in yesterday, spent the entire day, picked him up at 9:30, flew out last night at 10 p.m. So really a solid day, and it was great having him here and hearing about the things that he is working on and doing and how, we may want to be doing some things together, Maya and Carlos Machado. So it was great. And here's one thing that I will say that I really liked. And this is something that everybody should be thinking about. We talk about it all the time. And if you see it, we have ours right here. We're just not scrolling up to where you can see everything here. But everybody should have a mission statement as for your martial arts school. And, what is your mission statement? Because when you understand what your mission is for your business or your martial arts teaching, it will definitely help you travel in the right direction of, is there a right way to run a martial arts school? And is your mission to make world champions? Is your mission to get people in the cage? Is your mission to just build more confidence, help your communities just become safer, teach people some what is the mission here? And I loved his answer is, his mission is to make the average above average. Right. And he talked about if you have an elite athlete come in and that's their baseline, my job is to just make you better. Right. And if you have somebody who's never done any athletics or anything, my job is to make you better. And the mission is make the average above average. Right. I thought that was just very well said. And we can fool ourselves. Right. But in your martial arts school, for the most part, most schools have some high-level martial artists, and a lot of schools, on a physicality sense, have some lower-level martial artists because some people have handicaps, some people have age, some people have injuries, some people have what Michael Perry has, and you just can't get there. Hey, I don't have passion.
I'm not the only one that has it.
We were just talking about how basically my whole right side of my body is almost like just numb and injured. Anyway, my point is I thought that was great. And that's something that all of you should really decide is what is your mission statement? Now, saying that, Is there a right way to run a martial arts school? I'm curious to see if anybody wants to chime in here.
Mr. McCoy, I'll pull this up. He says, in general, no, there's no right way to run any business in a universal sense, always context sensitive.
So I agree with Mr. McCoy. But to flip that, I think there is a right way to run a martial arts school. And that right way is defined by the individual, right? But, and chime in, people, please. A lot of you, I would think there's a lot of you. I know there's a lot of you, whether we want to justify or defend because we don't have it. A lot of you want financial security, or you want to have more revenue coming in from your martial arts school, or you want to be able to hire some of your black belts or pay them better, or give an opportunity for some of your people to have careers in the martial arts. So if you want to grow financially, is there a right way to run a martial arts school? If you want to train UFC fighters, is there a right way to run a martial arts school? You know, if you want to train just competitors on a local level, is there a right way to run a martial arts school? And the thing is like, there is no universal way, like Mr. McCoy says. I agree with that. But in theory, if you know exactly what you're trying to do, there is a right way. And when I say right way, maybe it's not that there's a right way and a wrong way, but there's a right way, a more efficient way, a better way in any of those categories. What do we have? We have Mr. McCoy.
Yeah, Mr. McCoy, talking about that mission statement a little bit. Our purpose is to honor God in all that we do. Our vision is to change how people whose lives we interact to view their lives to a more positive frame. And our mission is to use martial arts, our strength, to accomplish our purpose and in turn our vision.
Fine. And then there's somebody that may be able to come in and give you some tips on how to be more efficient in doing that, right? It's up to you. However, then there's priorities, right? Well, my priority is to create world champions. And secondly, I'd like to be financially secure. That's fine. But what we were talking about, Mr. Machado and myself, what we were talking about is sometimes you focus so much on financial success that quality is down here. And then sometimes it's this way. You're trying to produce the best martial artists in the world, and the financial success just isn't there. And why? Well, because what it takes to be a world champion, the commitment, the dedication, the training, the hardcore, that's a sliver of the sliver we're already trying to go after in the martial arts world, right? So how do you do this? How do you find a balance to where you can have really good quality martial artists and also financial success, or whatever your 1 and 2 are as far as your priorities in your martial arts school? And what I will tell you is that there is a right way, and there is a way, put it this way, there is a way to have both. Whatever that 1 and 2 is, there is a way. And then it's debatable. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tim Laterman, he's in the watching in the Maya Small School Forum. He said there's always a wrong way. And then Mr. Hutchings here says, for me, there's always a better way. Through education and other means, you can learn how to better yourselves. For me, as long as it doesn't go against my belief system of owning a business, I don't mind change. We started using software, which helped me a lot.
Okay. Here's the other thing I want everybody to recognize too. You got to remove yourself from your belief system. You got to remove yourself, not saying change your mind, but you got to remove yourself from your belief system and look at it from a distance and stop and try to be non-objective, right? Like, try to remove yourself and say, well, let me just process this. For example, and this is just an example, everybody. I hate contracts. No contracts. I don't like contracts, right? And I will justify every reason why you shouldn't have contracts. And the way to do this for customers and for business is month to month, month to month, month to month. Stop it for a second. Stop. You can't argue what thousands of martial arts schools are doing very successfully. What are they doing? How are they doing it? Why don't their customers have a problem with it? They're producing high quality martial artists. It's working well. Their student value per student is extremely high, right? Or vice versa, right? Month to month doesn't work. You got to do whatever it is. Stop, because you don't have an argument when there's data to prove that you'd be wrong. There is no argument. It's in your own mind, right? So as Mr. Hutchings would say, I'm open to change, right? But not you, sir, I'm not speaking to you, but are you, people that say that, are you really open to change, right? Are you? And you should be open to change. And people say it all the time. If you see somebody doing what you're doing, for example, running a martial arts school, but they're doing what you want your school to be doing, and they're doing it so much better, how do you argue then? How do you argue with it, right? Well, they have great students. They have a great culture. They have great customer service. They have a great family atmosphere. But why is it that every student on their mat's worth $230 and mine's worth $130? Why is that? What's the difference? Not in what we charge. I'm just saying, why are they doing $100,000 a month? And here I am struggling trying to get to $15,000 a month. What's the difference? And then what will happen is, oh, well, it's their area. They're in a better area. So then we'll start justifying. We'll start making excuses on why. But here's what I tell people. You can't control the economy. You can control the area you're in, but once you've committed to it and you're in that area, you're in that area. Now, unless you want to just move, right? But you're in that area. So you're not going to control that area. So what's the only thing you have control of? How you do business. That's the only thing you have control of. So stop talking about things you don't have control of. Remove yourself from your belief system for a minute. Open your mind. But you can't do that, and you don't have a right way to run a martial arts school until you know what you're really trying to do. And it's different for everybody. You have to know, what am I really trying to do for the masses? Well, I want to create world champions. Stop. Okay, I want to create world champions, but I know that 9 out of 10 people that walk into my school don't care about being a world champion. 9 out of 10 need more focus, more discipline, exercise, stress relief, some self-defense. So I want to create, okay, so how can I design something for the people that do want to become world champions? I need to have a program or something that I can offer for them, for those people who want that highest level of training. Okay, what else do you want to do? Well, I want to help the communities be better. I want to help stop bullying in the schools. I want to give kids more confidence. I want them to be able to defend themselves better. I want to get them more active because obesity is out of control in youth, especially. Okay, so now how do you get more people into your program, right? You got to work from the end down, right? What result do you want? Now work backwards. But then at the end of the day, here's the other thing that you'll do. Well, I got 500 students. You have 500 students? Wow. Well, how much are you grossing? We gross 50 to 60,000 every month. Well, when you take 50 to 60,000 a month on the surface, that's a really successful school. But not when you have 500 students, it's not. You should be grossing 100,000 minimum a month with 500 students, minimum, even if you charge $150 a month. But then the excuses will start coming into the justifications. You know this, where, well, now you're nickel and diming your
Right.
people. Because Mr. Perry here, who's our chief operating officer of our licensing division, and also manages Maya as well from the Orlando offices, ran a school. You competed on world-class tournaments, you know, and this, that, and the other. And you know the battle that some of us feel and the justifications that we make along the way.
I think a lot of times it's hard for people to just get the idea that, hey, I'm charging this month, but this much per month. but my actual student value is this much. How is that even possible? If you're charging, let's say 159, we'll use our schools as an example. 169, 159 last year, and our student value ended up being 226 with all of the schools. So how is that even possible? And we say we have to try to paint that picture of it's a lot of things. If we go into core four, the core systems that we do, but just you mentioned it, removing what we know and being able to open up our mind enough to say, all right, let me just take a peek and see what this actually is. And people that do typically get the results that they're looking for, or that they didn't even realize were possible.
Right. And here's the other thing that I think we don't always realize is possible is you could have all of it. It's not you can only have one or the other. And I don't just mean financial success. I mean, if more people would chime in on what it is that you are wanting, what is your number one goal for your martial arts school, your number two goal, your number three goal, whatever they are, there is a way where you can most likely accomplish all of it, right? You can accomplish all of it. But it's based on some core foundational principles. But in our industry, you guys know there's no debating this. You see some phenomenal martial arts instructors and teachers and martial artists that struggle financially, or they don't care about financially. They do this because of the love of the martial arts, but they can't get more than 50 students. And they're such a good martial artist and instructor, but they just can't get more than 50 students. Well, is your goal to just have 50 students, or like, what is it that you want? So you got to list out exactly what your mission is for your martial arts business. Now, the other thing is what we have up here too is not just our mission for our customers and our company, but also our mission for our staff and our team and what we want to be able to accomplish there. So then it starts branching out. So when we ask, is there a right way or a wrong way? There definitely is. I mean, we've evolved. I mean, let's use you for an example. So how long did you run Oviedo?
2007 till 16, so almost 10 years.
So almost 10 years, but because I think we have an open mind in the culture of our company, right? We're always seeking ways, how can we do things better, more efficient? He has more experience than the people running Oviedo now were your students.
Yep.
And how much better is that school doing now than when you ran it for 10 years?
It's funny, like we talk about seeing the students do better than the instructor. It's the same concept here. It's amazing to see a mother whose children, when I was running that school, whose children got their black belts and she ended up training, and then she eventually got her black belt, became a student, to now running that school and it doing way better than anything I ever did while I was running that school as well. And it goes to what you're saying is, yes, we have these systems, but we're not locked in. We're always kind of tweaking and improving, trying to be on top of what the trends are and finding what really works for everybody. So yeah, it's for me, I'm the competitive part of me is like, damn, I wish I could have done that, but I'm so proud of these guys for hitting numbers that I never did.
Now, I'm going to just say this for some of the traditionalists or some of the, let me just pre-frame with this. With Maya, our job, primarily, our priority is to help you grow your school with retention, recruitment, and revenue. That's our primary focus. Okay, the 3 R's we call it. We want you to impact more lives. We want you to be able to keep your students longer, and we want you to be able to generate more revenue. And so a lot of times we talk about money because we are more on the business consulting side. But I've said this before, we do very well financially with our schools. When he was running Oviedo, we have a black belt test twice a year where we have 100 or so people come and they're testing for black belt between all of our schools, right? 2 times a year. We were in the middle of that test with 100 and some people, and I stopped the test and I called every instructor in the middle of the gymnasium. And how do you remember it? What was the message?
It was exactly that. I remember the test, and you're probably, whose student is that? And I remember It was mine. And then a couple discussions happened. Then he had this testers just do exercises and said, I need all the instructors here. And you literally said, it's not good enough. This is not good enough for what we want. And you could go from what your perspective was, but I just remember.
But I think I remember in that huddle, I said, I don't care if you're doing $1 million a month. We are not going to have students at this quality. I expect more for our students.
And that wasn't the first time you've said it, and it wasn't the last time you said it either. It's always been a consistent theme.
So it's okay. I want both, though. I want the revenue, but I won't take the revenue without the quality. And I want everybody to understand that because, again, maybe not you guys watching, but I think people in our industry feel that you can't, a lot of people, not everybody, you can't have both, right? And you absolutely can have both. As a matter of fact, let me show you how serious we are about this. I'll show the text from last night. So,
Mr. Peterman?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to be better. And I want to show you, let's see.
It's coming, I promise.
Here it is. Okay. Okay. So this was last night. I get a text at 10 after 6 last night. We're trying, how do we make our students better martial artists? So I get a text that says, we're only scratching the surface, but we spent 3 hours on curriculum revisions today. Once we have all skill sets listed, we will start chopping it all up into rank distribution. It goes on about the concepts and rather memorizing sequences. Students would just need to memorize terminology for each skill, yada, yada, yada. And then I get a screenshot of this.
You guys see that, right?
That's clear, right? That's, by the way,
everyone's putting their glasses on right now.
That's how I can read menus now, by the way. You can't see it, but I mean, we take it very serious. So as much as we focus on business, right? These are all these notes, a screenshot of a dry erase board that our vice president of operations, along with our directors, and who's been with me since they were kids, right? Who are now in their 30s and 40s. We are always working on how do we make our students better, but how do we also grow this company?
Yeah.
So I can have directors and give them opportunities to grow in the company along with everybody else who started out as an assistant instructor, senior instructor, chief instructor, assistant manager, manager, director now, so we want to have this ladder. So we're very, very passionate about trying to help the industry. But by doing this, after doing this 20 years, the biggest obstacle is people get in their own way.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mr. Hutchings, I read a little bit of this, and I'll read this for everybody. I've noticed in our industry, a lot of children and adults have a lot of different disabilities. I try my best to give the best quality, but some people are not capable of doing techniques the way that we would like them to do it. I just feel lately, especially in my neck of the woods, that people with developmentally disabled are drawn to the martial arts because of the individual guidance that we give, and a lot of counselors try to get their clients in martial arts for the group belief that it would solve some big thing or something. I really do feel about half of our student base have some sort of disability, and maybe even more. And listen, when you pulled me aside and said, whose student is that? And I said, that's mine. I had a lot of students in the same situation. But it's what Mr. Machado said yesterday. We just want to take the average and make them above average. We want to get that person, regardless of their disability or regardless of their situation, let's try to get them better than what they were. And if we can get them as close to what our vision is, that's a success in my mind.
Well, Mr. Silva, it's good to see you, sir.
Mr. Silva.
One of the best here. Better students, the more people that want to be part of your school. And I was just about to go to that, because here's the other thing. If you are so black and white on your training and your curriculum and your regimen that it doesn't appeal to the masses, and you're making phenomenal martial artists in a year, but they end up quitting after a year, you no longer are making an impact on those people. And okay, so you're making an impact, but the question is would you make an impact if you kept the student 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? So you got to have this balance to give your customers what they want while also giving them what they need. But at the end of the day, people want to know that somebody's got their back, someone's in their corner, and they feel accomplished. They feel like they're doing a good job, right? And when people feel inspired, when they feel like they're doing well at something, a lot of times that's not something they want to quit. But when they're failing, when they're being corrected constantly, when it's constant correction, right? As an instructor, when you're on the mat, how many times, think about it, when you're on the mat teaching, how often are you saying, nope, other hand, other leg, switch your, nope, hands up, do that, as opposed to, that's a phenomenal, we always hear it, praise, correct praise, 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 praise. But is it balanced, right? Is it just more correction? Is it lopsided with corrections to praise, right?
And vice versa too. I think sometimes when you just praise for the sake of praising, it becomes less special, and people read through that too.
You don't give fake praise,
Yeah.
right? But also the other thing is if you can't find something to praise, and we always joke, well, tell them how nice their shoes are today, right? At the end of the day, if you can't find something to praise, you got to restructure your class somehow so they do have wins along the way. Eventually we'll get them to where we want, but that's what a great instructor can do, right? How do you keep your students for the long term and make them great and eventually get them to where you want them to be? Because no matter how hardcore you might think you are, if you're not keeping the majority of your students, it doesn't matter, right? So how can you build them to that? And then what path do they want to go? Well, I want to compete at a world-class level, but I don't want to compete. I just want to be able to teach and impact lives, right? Yeah. Two different pathways there. You got to be able to recognize that, and you have to have a program that will allow you to do that. With respect to challenges or disabilities, if your mission allows for it, getting into each student's personal space and adjusting for it creates a stronger community within your school. 100%. Yep, agreed.
Yeah, Mr. Lockett, I agree. Non-specific praise, thumbs down.
Right. Well, look, that's another thing. I'm not a believer in this culture today of trophies for trying, as Tassoul calls it, right? I'm just not a believer in that, because I tell people this all the time, and I think this is why I have such a passion helping our industry, because I'm a martial artist, right? Trained this morning, I train all the time, right? I'm a martial artist, so this is my industry I'm focused on. But I get so passionate, I have these discussions with my mother. Life is tough enough. Life is tough. Life doesn't give you trophies for trying. Life doesn't give you any gimmies. If you're not going to put the work in, the biggest struggle for people really is financial struggles in real life. But guess what else there is? There's sickness, there's deaths, there's hardships, there's friendship issues. There's all kinds of issues. Let's take care of what we can control. I can't control whether you get sick, right? Or if you get cancer, or if you get a disease. But at least I don't want to have the stress of how am I going to pay my mortgage while I'm worried about my loved one who may be sick right now. So I am so passionate, because one thing that we know, and Perry sits right here in the conference room with me for the last 7 years, 8 years.
About that, yeah.
We know how to help schools. It's something we know how to do. I think my approach is rough. Would you agree with that?
You've got an acquired taste.
Thank you, Perry. But at the end of the day, it's passion, because when you do it for 20 years, one-on-one, by the way, and I don't mean 20 years of just speaking on the circuit, 20 years of just I have one after this meeting. I'm going to speak one-on-one with a team, right, on a Zoom. And you get the feedback, you get the challenges, you hear the insecurities, you hear the excuses, and my job is to try to think through solutions and inspire and motivate. And then we see the results of what these schools are doing. I think my patience has gotten thinner. And as a human being, it's like there's nothing anybody on here is going to be able to say that I haven't heard 1,000 times. Right. So I almost want to say, stop talking and just listen, and I will help you. Right. On the business side, I'm not going to come in there and start telling you how to teach your martial arts curriculum. That's not my job. I'm not standing in your school. I don't know your art. I don't know your curriculum. I just got to assume that you can deliver your martial arts. And if you come to our seminars, we have instructor trainings and you're going to learn a lot from that. But on the business side, if you're looking to stream, it's almost like what I said about life. The martial arts business is just as tough. Worry about your curriculum, your floor, teaching better classes, as opposed to how you're going to pay the rent, how you're going to hire your black belt student that wants a job. I follow this system, and those worries go away. Now you can do what we're doing, spending 3 hours yesterday just on curriculum reengineering. How are we going to make it better, more efficient for the students to learn and become better martial artists, right? That's the stuff I want you to focus on.
Shane Griffin, who was up here, said, I really enjoyed this show. It has the look of Statler and Waldorf without the sarcasm. If you guys don't know who Statler and Waldorf are, you maybe remember this from back in the day. Let's see.
Perry, I got to tell you, this camera is amazing at just like focusing in on an area.
Well, that's what Statler and Waldorf see when they look at it. Yeah, Muppets. I appreciate it. And then he finished off with, keep up the good work. Praise correct, praise at its finest.
Hey, that worked, but I really don't feel good about that.
No, right? But thanks.
Yeah, CJ Rivera. I grew up in a time where we had to earn everything. Well, look, if you're over 40 years old, I think you grew up in a time where you had to earn everything. If you're over 30, I think the shift was starting because we started developing whiners in this life, or culture, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah. You had to put the time and training in for sure. It's actually one here. Mr. Silva. The pathways is key to keeping your black belts alive.
Active. We want to keep them alive too. Yeah.
Active. I'm sorry.
You want to keep your black belts alive.
And alive.
Sure. But active.
I learned that from Herb Perez. Herb Perez is awesome. I remember, Mr. Silva, when I was, you brought Herb Perez into the school. The hardest kick I've ever taken through a body shield. I'm 16 years old, and he says, hey, why did you hold this for me? And then he got to kick me in real life, I think, at our test.
Right, and then he came to our testing and asked the guys, hold your arms up, and then—
Oh, that's what it was, yeah.
What? And he told one of our other instructors at our instructor test, okay, roundhouse kick him as hard as you can. They're like, huh? And he goes, roundhouse kick him. And then they would kick. He's like, is that as hard as you can kick? Anyway, Herb's a great example of a martial arts purist for sure. And Perrion is an example of a black belt for life.
I appreciate it. I had a great start and foundation in the beginning of my training. Thanks to you, Mr. Silva. I appreciate it. Never forget it. Mr. Rivera. I'm a teacher that wants to help my students get to the next level.
So look, Mr. Rivera, let's talk about this. This is important. So look, I'm a teacher that wants to help my students get to the next level. And I think everybody would probably say that, right? And then your next statement, not only to become excellent karatekas or karatekas or however, depending on what part of the country you're in, but also citizens or citizens.
Depending on what part of the country.
But here's the deal with that, though. Here's the deal. Listen, everyone. This is why it's important. Let's say you are fantastic at keeping your students, making great black belts. You're a master at that, and you're doing a great job. And then I always say this: 5 of your black belts that have been training together since they were kids, that are now 21, 22, kids still, but older, right? They all walk into your office and say, sir, can we talk to you? Or ma'am, can we talk to you? And they say, look, martial arts has changed our life. We did the college thing, but this is our passion. We'd love to make this our career, and we'd love to work for you. Would you be able to hire them all and give them a career? And if your answer is no, would you want your answer to be yes? That's the question first. Would you want to be able to hire your students that have been with you for 15 years that now want a career with you? Or would you say, well, look, I'll help you go open your own school? You could do that too, right? But if you know anything about this industry, if they go open their own school, the chances are they will struggle or go out of business. Chances are, statistically, right? But if you had systems and you can hire them and give them a salary, a retirement plan, health benefits, a vacation package, have a team behind them to when they want to take a vacation, it's okay, take your vacation. We got it covered. We're a team here, right? Wouldn't you want to be able to do that? And if you would not want to be able to do that, I'd love to hear why you wouldn't want to be able to do that. I'd love to understand why you wouldn't want to be able to provide that. What else do we have here?
We got a bunch that came through just now. So Shane Griffin, why can't we go back to making people earn things again? I think we can. Has the pendulum shifted that much in our industry? And can you go back to, and this is a side note, can we go back to some more advice on curriculum reengineering?
Yes and no. Next.
All right, next question.
Sir, you could reach out to us on the curriculum reengineering, but also it's working from the end, what your result is. Yeah. What is it that you want your students? Look, another thing that I think we need to understand. I now, because I've been in martial arts for 41 years and still, knuckles are bleeding from some training. I did jujitsu. I'm hurting, right? And I'm a martial artist. But I know that for a lot of my martial arts career as a kid and coming up, where I was feeling good about myself just because I memorized patterns better, combinations better. But I wasn't as effective as a great athlete walking in that trains and memorizes the combination that was a boxer or a wrestler that came in and a month into jujitsu, they're better than me, right? So I realized 20 years ago or so that we're teaching more memorization than application. So I don't want to do that. I want to teach more application than memorization. The memorization will come through drilling as opposed to one step, one count, left leg steps here, bend the knee this way, this hand crosses on top.
Step behind with the other foot.
Yeah.
No, the other foot.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever that is, right? And so that's how we are re-engineering our curriculum. How do we make our students sharper, better, more effective while giving them a workout, while making them feel more empowered about themselves? By looking visually to when somebody walks into our school, sees something different on our mat than if they walk into anyone else's school. So that's where we're at, and that's what we're trying to build, something off of that and how we deliver that curriculum, right? So that's that. And then as far as the industry, can we go back to, not doing the trophies for trying type thing? That's not a martial arts thing. That's a world thing, or at least an American thing, I would say. And I know you're in Canada, but it's just, we're in this entitlement society all of a sudden. And it's just, I don't get it. I personally do not get it, right? Like, I believe teachers should be able to discipline kids more in school. Personally, when I came up through school, Mr. Nagel had a paddle. He screwed around, you went in the back and whack, you got paddled. And guess what? We frickin' stood straight. We were respectful. We didn't want that. And I'm not saying start beating children. I'm just saying now kids can spit in your face. They can give you the finger. They can be totally disrespectful. And I don't think there's really any consequences for that because you'll be sued. You'll be in trouble. And this is the problem. This is what is happening now. And this is why society, I believe, is going the way it's going. And I can tell you, and this will be for another debate off the martial arts, but I don't think we're going in the right direction. I don't think we're getting better. I think things are getting worse with this entitlement.
And I think that's where we come in as an industry. We can make a huge difference.
That's right.
That's why what we do, I think, at least in my mind, what we do is so important every single day beyond the blocking, punching, kicking, takedowns, arm bars. It's how we can really make an effect and an impact on our community as a whole.
What else do we have here?
Mr. McCoy, I'm not picking sides, but it's important to know that not earning it is a point of view peculiar in the USA economic system supported by dominant faith. It is neither universal nor necessarily beneficial or detrimental. It is just a point of view or worldview.
Okay, whatever it is, we can only control what we can control, right? And all of you are in a community somewhere. Start there. But then this goes back to, would you want multiple schools? Well, your gut instinct for a lot of you are, no, I don't want multiple schools. Why not? Well, too much of a headache. I want to keep control of my own things. This, that, excuses, justifications. Of course, you'd want multiple schools if it wasn't a headache, if you could provide great quality instruction, if you can impact your communities more. And obviously, you know, if you spread out, you'll have more impact. So you got to think of it differently, right? Okay, it's a headache to run multiple schools or a big school or whatever it is. Well, let's figure out how to make it to where it's a system and not make it a headache. Well, then I don't want it to be watered down. Okay, well, how do we do it so it's not watered down, right? I mean, just solutions, people. We got to think solutions.
Yeah. So just going off of that, many businesses have a different worldview in and out of our market sector that succeed. That is part of the purpose or vision. And then Mr. Hutchings, Michael Hutchings, as a person who did the martial arts in the 1990s, it took me a long time to understand that you can't treat students like I was taught in the 90s. Things have changed. When I first started my first school in the early 2000s, throughout time, I was able to update my teaching philosophy. I'd help them and find a location.
Yeah, you can put that up. Mr. Rivera, of course you would help them and find a location for them. But would you do that because that's all you can do? But what if they said, I don't want to be an owner. I don't want that headache or that stress. I want to work for you. Can you hire them? Can you? And they say, but I need to be full-time because I really need to have a job right now. I need full-time work. You've changed my life and I want to help now change other students' lives, but I want to do it in your school, in your company. Can you do it? And that's the answer. And I, again, if you say, I wouldn't want to do it, I wouldn't understand that answer, right? Of course, we've done it. We had 10 locations and I tell all of my team, if you want to own your own school that you've been running and managing, we'll let you do it. And we've done that with two locations. We said, you've been running it. You want to buy it? You can have it. And by the way, it was instant revenue for them when they bought it. Instant like raise for them, but they want to be owner. I'll help them too. But it's only been 2. We have 80 people that work for us. 2 of them wanted to do it. The other 78 don't. Not yet, right? So we have options. We'll help you with whatever you want, but I want to be able to do and provide whatever it is that they want.
Mr. Silverman and others have kept the dream alive. Canada is worse. All right. Come back. It's a neoliberal thing, conservative Protestant worldview origins. This stuff is really well researched. Again, not right or wrong, just a worldview. Other views work. Mr. Lockett, I'm a former teacher who was told by the principal to award a 60 if a student didn't submit an assignment in order to protect their self-esteem. Yeah,
that's setting, in my opinion, that's setting up a student for failure, because life's not going to give you a 60 if you don't show up for work. They're not going to give you 60% of your paycheck if you just stop going to work. It's just, that baffles me, that psychology, right? And I'm sure people have different perspective. And then Mr. Rivera said, in today's world, psychology of a child is more important. Then I would say, let's be psychologists, right? It's all important. All of it's important. It's funny because, there's parents and people in the world that say it's so important, you got to get good grades in school. And there's parents that are very strict. I'll never forget, how do you say it, Connor? You were one. Salutatorian? Salutatorian, depending on where you're from in the country, right? But anyway, the kid who in my high school had like a 4.8 GPA weighted or something and was like genius, right? Years later, not that there's anything wrong with it, he was working at a grocery store as a front end manager, not the manager of the grocery store, but like the bagger, like manager. And he was probably making at the time, probably pulling in 35 grand a year, right? In this position when I talked to him, and this is going back 20 years, right? But like Mr. Rivera says, so grades are important. But why are they important? Well, it shows that you have the ability to learn and you have the discipline to study and execute and meet deadlines, right? Maybe that's why grades are important. But psychology, I got to believe in myself. I feel like I need to know that I can accomplish anything if I put the work in, right? That's all psychology. But we can accomplish all this stuff in our martial arts if that's part of your mission statement. And if you consciously understand that that is a big part of what we do, as opposed to go out and win that tournament when I have no desire to compete in a tournament, let's say, for the majority of your students. Think about all the students that you have, what percentage compete, right? And if you're a school with under 100 students, maybe you have a high percentage that compete, right? But I'm making the point that not everybody wants that. They want, what do they want? So you have to give them what they want, also what they need for us to make an impact on our society.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes. So Mr. Lockett said yes, and shockingly, the students learned how little work was required and adapted accordingly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're setting them up for failure if we reward lack of effort. Mr. Hutchins says, I really have a hard time having my students compete. We offer it and we offer competitive classes, but they're just not interested. I remember.
I really have a hard time having my students compete. We offer it and we offer competitive classes, but they're just not interested. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll give credit where credit's due to Mr. Sophie. He's the first person that taught me this. Is he had a piece of paper and he said, this is your student base, and this is the percentage of students that are probably going to compete or be on that competition level. We got to cater to these guys, but don't neglect these guys because of this. So,
Connor, we're going to need a new copy.
Sorry. New copy. We'll get it. Card stock next time.
Thank God Mr. Silva didn't tell you half of them wanted to compete.
Thank God.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Silva.
But he's exactly right. And that's what I see. Sometimes that we cater to the higher level physicality of students and sometimes make the other students feel inferior in some way. And you can't do that. Look,
this goes back to what you were saying, is that balance.
But
right?
This is why. Is there a right way to run a martial arts school? The answer is yes, there is. But it's all different. But it has to be tailored. When you say this is ultimately my goal for my martial arts school, there is a right way to run it. If you say this is what I want from, in a martial art, my mission, there's a right way to run that. So yes, there is a right way to run a martial arts school. You just got to determine what is it that you want, and do you believe you can have it all, right? Do you believe that? Mr. Blackman.
How are you, sir? Looked like you had a good trip. We used to be a very competitive school, divided the school, and the school grew when we stopped.
Yeah, I was that way too. I remember on a Saturday, I would have open tryouts for Team Intensity. That was our competition team. If you're in NASCA, you've seen Team Intensity on the stage, Night of Champions. We were there year after year back in the day. And I remember in my school, I opened up tryouts on a Saturday where any students that wanted to try out for team. And guess what? We'd have 100 people show up on Saturday. 3 people would make it. I'd have 97 kids crying, leaving. Not the way to run it. Didn't fit my mission statement. At the time it did, because I was so focused on just being the highest level martial artists. And that's what I wanted in the school. That's not, I want both now. At the time, I didn't understand that I need to have both. You can't have 97 kids walking out on a Saturday morning of your school crying, feeling like failures, and expect to make a big impact on your community for the long term.
Mr. Hutchings, I was part of a school a long time ago that used to force us to compete, which created a lot of problems with people, especially with people that did not want to compete. And I cannot stand when schools make competition part of the belt rank. There's a lot of that in New York. Yeah. Mr. Blackman, it was an awesome trip. You talk about systems. This trip was with other CMA owners. Networking is key. Yep.
You're 100% right. And we obviously love having you guys in the CMA family, and we love everyone in our CMA affiliate family, right? The 120
schools,
120 plus schools now in the family, but networking, also being around the people that have the same goals, and networking and brainstorming and sharing, and that in itself is so powerful to continue to push each other, and motivate each other and inspire each other, and struggle together at times. I mean, we went through COVID, CMA, and everybody else, and we pulled each other through. We did not have anybody go out of business in our Maya or CMA family at that time, and they all flourished. So my point is, that's just as powerful. So look, at the end of the day, open your mind, recognize when you're making justifications or excuses. You don't have to share that, but just recognize it internally. Remove yourself from that and start thinking solutions, right? And say, you know what, maybe there are things that I don't know, right? It's not about what you know, it's what you don't know that holds you back in life, in business, in teaching, in anything. If you don't know it, you don't have an argument, right? So you have to explore. The other big thing is sometimes you'll say, well, I've been to a super show and I heard speakers, this, that. That doesn't mean you know, right? It doesn't mean you know. It means you've heard snippets of different people. And I'm not saying we know, but what I am saying is, get on a call one-on-one. Let's talk about it. Then hang up with me and call someone else one-on-one and talk about it. And then call someone else. And that's how you're going to get educated and learn things that you don't know, and see perspectives, different perspectives. And then maybe you'll say, wow, that makes sense. I may want to try that. But then the next step to that is, will you execute? Are you willing to make some subtle changes in your thinking if you know it can get you to the next level, right? So that's all. That's what we're saying.
That's it, Mr. Lockett. You have to know what you don't know.
And there's always stuff we don't know. And that's why 31 years in business, my team spent 3 hours on curriculum reengineering. 31 years. You would think we know. We're always learning. We still don't know, right? We are completely open and always learning. So there it is. Hope you enjoyed the Metz Perry show. Does anybody have any memories of Tass? Since
they didn't share any, guys. When we said we'd like to send them something with the gift card.
Exactly. After firing Tassoul from the show, ratings were down. He wasn't talking enough. Tassoul, for some reason.
No. I don't know why. Tass. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Shane. His name was Shane
Tassoul.
or Tassoul, depending on where you are in the country or in the world. But anyway, no, he's on vacation right now, and he will be back. We'll be back next week, right?
Yeah, we'll be back next week.
But how about that Mr. Perry guy?
Hey.
How about him? It's all about culture.
It's all about culture.
Right?
Hopefully that culture takes the Heat to a win tonight, but we'll see.
Oh, Miami Heat, Denver Nuggets. What do you say? Let's end on this.
Who do you got?
Heat or Nuggets tonight, folks?
Yeah, we love Tass too.
I like Tass.
He's all right.
What do we have? So yes, Statler. Yeah, Waldorf and Tassoul.
Who's Statler and who's Waldorf is my question. Oh gosh, here we go.
Here it comes.
The Domers. You should have seen us last night with myself, Mr. Metzger, and Mr. Machado.
Yeah, Mr. Carlos Machado. We had dinner last night, and I noticed it at dinner, the three of us.
I got there first, and I told the hostess, I said, hey, I'm going to sit down, but when you see a couple other bald guys come in, just send them on way.
That's funny you say that, because as soon as we walked in, they said, your party's already here. And I'm like, what are they, facial recognition? Like, they already knew. So anyway, Carlos Machado, A+ guy. And I will say, with Maya, our mission is we want to do more business with the great people of our industry. And he's one of the great people of our industry. So stay tuned to Maya this year, as you'll start seeing more faces and names associating themselves with Maya. And these are really A+ people inside and outside the business. And don't forget MayaCon, June 30th, July 1st and 2nd. I'm looking at the list here. We got Malachi Friedman. You can look him up if you don't know. Kenny Bigby, Navy SEAL. He was the 32nd African-American ever to become a Navy SEAL. He's going to be there. Dave Kovar, Chris Rappold, Kim Colvin, KC, and then Arsaman, Klingenmeyer, Parman, Mr. Buzz Durkin. For those of you who've been around for a long time, if you ever heard the name Buzz Durkin, look him up as well. Honored to have all of these people come to our MayaCon event at the Disney Coronado Resort, July 1st and 2nd. So if you can get out there, that's about the networking, right? Mm-hmm. These are people that you want to be around. You know, these are people that are good people that will help, don't have agendas and want to help. Not like us. I mean, they're different than us.
We've got huge agendas.
Right. We have an agenda. We need credit card numbers, EFT, routing numbers.
Yep. And the CVV. Don't forget the 3-digit code and zip as well.
Right. So anyway, viewership just dropped.
You know
what happened?
It was the CVV, I think.
I told you not to bring up that 3-digit number on the cards. Anyway,
guys, thank you.
Thank you all so much. It's been great. Good luck. If you need anything, all I can say is Maya's here for you. And I'm sure there's others, but I can only speak for me. I can only control Maya. So thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Good seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is awkward.
This part right here?
Right.
When we're not.
Yeah, you might want to.
All right, let me just go ahead.
Yeah, stop on this.
4 for Amex. Thank you, Mrs. Lance.